And you have, as a cooperator, strong role to play in empowering communities for inclusive, sustainable economic growth and development. I'm now talking as a professional by nature of our economy, where you have smallholder farms scattered across the country. I can tell you, to achieve scale in economic sense of this smallholder scattered across the country, to achieve scale and be competitive, there is no any other channel except through cooperatives. This is true. This is almost like basic. Uganda cannot compete in an international market unless Uganda organizes its smallholder who form the majority of its population into an economic vehicle that can achieve scale and compete. And that channel is cooperative. Today, more than ever before, cooperatives are called upon to reinforce government efforts to transform our country from being peasant.
Bila wimbo moja, Your Excellency, with your permission, I know time has pressed us, but I would like DJ, you be prepared. Tuko na Shiro wa GP, atafanya wimbo moja peke yake. Shiro wa GP, atafanya wimbo moja peke yake, ili tukue tunaanza ratiba jinsi ambavyo imepangwa. Shiro wa GP, karibu. Tupigie Shiro wa GP makofi. Asante anapokaribia, ili atupe wimbo moja peke yake. I hope DJ you are ready. Manake after this, tunaenda mbio because of time. So Charles, mkuwe tayari ili tukimbie kukimbia.
Sawa sawa. Bwana asifiwe. Tusalimiane kwa mkono. Hallelujah. Nataka tuanze vizuri, kwa hivyo lazima tuamke. Simama tu na miguu yako. Tumsifu Bwana tunapoanza hii ibada ya siku ya leo, na najua tutashukuru Mungu pamoja, maana yeye ni Mungu. Wekea wimbo DJ, tumsifu. Pigia Yesu makofi.
Emoda nyani okinyage
One oguo. Tucokerie Ngai ngatho nĩ ũndũ wa ngavana witũ.
Wapi makofi ya Shiro wa GP. Thank you very much. We may be seated at this junction now. I'd like to, as we move on, Your Excellency the Governor, karibu sana. Ningependa sasa niwaletee my co-MC, Sheira Mwanyiga. Makofi kwa Sheira Mwanyiga. Takuwa akiendelea from here as we move on. Asanteni sana na karibuni sana.
Adua Kiambu. Wego. Dederaitwa Sheila Mwanyiga. Na dedera kena mono kwa haha. Mwe hau. Twe haha. Twe together. Au sio? Mami ne Mugikuyu, baba ne Mutaita, Morogoro ne Kenya. Atia. Ne Jega. Nitarauga Jega. How are you doing, Kiambu? Ebu niwaone tafadhali tusalimiane na mikono. Nimependa sana, nimefurahi sana kwa hapa na nyinyi. It gives me such great pleasure to be here. Kimombo ndio nilifundishwa mimi kusindikiza watu shule, so mtanikubalisha tafadhali leo nizungumze na kile lugha mnajua. Au aje? Si watu wa Kiambu wanajua Kizungu? Mulienda shule pia? Hamkusindikiza watu pia, au sio? Excellent. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. It is a wonderful honor and a pleasure to be here in county number 22, Kiambu County, as we unveil His Excellency Honorable Dr. James Nyoro's manifesto. We're so glad, tumefurahi sana, you have made the time to be here with us for the Kiambu we want. The Kiambu? The Kiambu? We want it when? We can even start now. Sindio? Now, Kiambu County is a powerful contributor to Kenya's economy. Na mnajua, over the past 2 years, you have undergone significant transformation in health, in roads and infrastructure, maji, human resources, and the agricultural sector. And more success awaits this wonderful county with the stewardship of His Excellency Honorable Dr. James Nyoro, a leader with a proven track record for forging partnerships, who alongside other national visionaries was instrumental in developing Kenya's Vision 2030. And he has diligently brought his knowledge, the depth of it all, as a world-renowned agricultural economist to the county of Kiambu while serving as governor. Hebu tumpe makofi hapo kidogo. Kazi kubwa wamefanya. But today, we would like to hear directly from the governor. So I'm not going to say mambo mengi mengine. I'm going to request that you join me in giving him a big round of applause as he makes his way to the stage with his opening remarks. Tafadhali, let's hear it for incoming and current as well, sijasahau. Let's hear it for His Excellency Dr. James Nyoro as he makes his way up to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Shera. We may all be seated. May all be seated. And those at the back, you can also get seated if you can. I'm talking about the wale wanasema Nyoro tano fresh. Hamtakaa chini. Thank you. Thank you very much. I wish to recognize the presence of quite a number of people here. First and foremost, let me recognize the presence of our peers for transport, and at the same time PS for water, Dr. Engineer Njoroge, he's there. Let's give him a round of applause. We have our PS for tourism, Zainabu, you know her, she's also there with us. Thank you very much. Let me also appreciate the presence of two of our most important candidates, Mr. George Mara, who is the candidate for senator position in Kiambu County. Give him a loud applause. Let me also recognize the presence of Madam Shania, who is the candidate for women rep. And also let me recognize the presence of my running mate, June Jambi Wawero. You know, I was telling her that since we started the campaign, we've been calling her June, and now that today we are in July, I don't know whether we are going to change that name, but she still remains June. Let me also recognize the presence of my wife, Sarah Karanja. She's there. Together with that, I have a number of my family members. We normally like to remain incognito. So I'll ask them to start. Nobody will know who is who. Other family members, please stand. Don't say your name, just stand. Thank you, thank you. Those are members of my family. You can assume that they are all my sons and daughters. Let me also appreciate a number of candidates, colleagues who are contesting in this election. I know they are all here, and I know it's really an honor to join us. Together with that, I would want to recognize the presence of my staff. I have my CCs or waziris, as we call them. They are here, and they may be upstanding, if wherever you are. And together, let them be joined by the chief officers, tafadhali, and directors. Directors, thank you very much. That's the people that we've been working together with. You may take your seats. Let me not continue because I'm told we are squeezed for time. I have a number of colleagues and friends who are here, and I really would want to appreciate your being here. I want to go very quickly and say the reason we are here today, like no other time, we are here to take stock of a county that God has given us. Take stock of where we have come from, where we are, and where we are going. And more particularly, it will be important for us to consider that we are going to have a covenant between me, my DG, the leadership of the county, with the people of Kiambu. And as you are going to see, like never before, we want to present a covenant whose accountability and transparency will be held by Kiambu people. And that is why we are today. I don't want to call it a manifesto. I want to call it a covenant. because it's an agreement between us and people of Kiambu. I'll be very quick in giving the intro, because I think we can always have the intro whenever we want. But I want to say that we probably don't know the county that we live in. This is a very, very, very rich county. God has given us, as they say, land full of honey, milk and honey. We have 12 sub-counties, and you all know, I'm preaching to the choir, with 60 wards and several hundred villages, with a total population of, according to 2019 census, 2.4 million, which is projected to increase to 2.8 million by this year, by the end of this year. By 2030, we shall be 4.1 million. And if that projection goes, by 2040, we shall be 6-point-something million people. As you can see, our population growth rate is extremely high, contributed by, among other things, people wanting to come and live in Kiambu, and not necessarily the fact that they've been born in Kiambu. Half of that population are young, at the age of 18 to 35. More or less about 65% of that population. And that is the population that is supposed to take over the management of the county so that they can take care of the 35 that is aged. It is one of the fastest metropolis, being next to Nairobi. You know, we are just about 5, but we are one of the biggest and the fastest. We are said to contribute about 6% of Kenya's GDP, and being the second county to do that, because the first one is Nairobi. But much more importantly, you have to consider is that whereas most other counties, except the cities, the 4 or 5 cities, the majority of our people are living in urban centers. 60% of our population lives in urban centers. Only 40%, as it were, lives in rural areas. Now, that comes in with its own challenges, and it comes in with its own opportunities. And we'll look at that as we continue. Now, to give you an example, if 60% of the 2.8 million are living in urban centers, then you have to think about garbage collection. Now, traditionally, if you're living in the rural area, all you do is you put your garbage in. But if you are living in an urban center, you have to have a modern way of collecting your garbage. So we have special challenges as a county. We are very well endowed, and I can tell you God has blessed Kiambu. If you are coming from Rari, Rimuru, Kiambu comes down from top, adulating to the middle, where we are now, where we do coffee, tea, and mainly coffee daily, and then it goes down to Gatuanyaga, Goliva, and so on. Now, there's a merit for that. With different agroecological zones, there is nothing that you cannot grow in Kiambu. All the way from grapes, you can do coffee, you can do tea, you can do sorghum, because God did not give us one flat land. He gave us land that adulates from high altitude to low altitude. Now, that comes with its own challenge. If you are looking at maize variety, the variety that will grow in Goliva is not the variety that will grow in Rari. And that is where we have gone wrong. And probably that is where we are food insecure. Do you know, we may have a very high per capita income, estimated at over 230,000, whatever per capita income is. All it means is that all our money, if it was liquidated, all our assets, and we divide, you would go home with 230,000 shillings. I know quite a number of you would wish that we do that so that you can take 230,000 shillings. What I want to tell you is that is in the hearts of a few. We still have quite a number of people who are living below poverty line. About a quarter of our population are living below poverty line, which means that we have to address the poor even as we look at the rich. You don't penalize the rich so that you get to the poor. You deal with the rich so that they can reach out to the poor. Otherwise, then you kill the geese that lays the golden egg. I can go on and on and on and tell you the kind of county that you are, but I want you to agree that God has given us a very, very, very prosperous and potential county where each one of us should never, never cry that you don't have a job. I have not said that about 25% of our population live with probably no meal or a meal a day. So despite the fact that we are the biggest producer of coffee tea, we have some of the biggest agro-based industries like Bidco, like Broadways, like Tattoo City here, like Brookside, like the Gori Dairy. Despite all of that, about a quarter of our people live without a meal, probably without a meal, or they get a meal a day. And these are challenges that we have to live with. Of course, we are close to Nairobi. Our close proximity to Nairobi is both a blessing and a curse at the same time. I keep on saying that Kiambu is probably the only county where if an egg is laid, before it cools down, it is eaten in Nairobi. But it is also a county that suffers from insecurity that spans from Nairobi. So there are those positive and negative aspects of it. But having said that, let me say that over the last 9 years, if we were keen in utilizing the resources that God has given us, this county would have been different. Before devolution, the per capita income was extremely high. Of course, coffee and tea was booming. But unfortunately, devolution has seen us not deliver what otherwise was supposed to have been delivered through the kind of money that comes from the treasury. And therefore, that coupled with mismanagement, coupled with lack of transparency and accountability, coupled with steering right, left, center, we found ourselves in a situation where a governor was impeached. And I want to remind Kiambu people, because I keep on getting this question. Because Kibe Mungai knows that we have quite a number of cases that are pending in court, because we challenged the Constitution. Because the Constitution had emphasized that the only time when the governor will not be there is when the governor is on safari. And therefore, the deputy governor was totally helpless. That's a section of the Constitution. And therefore, nobody anticipated the situation we found ourselves in 2019. And for 6 months, I was running a county without authority, because the Constitution did not allow me to do that. Luckily enough, and we thank all the people, the patriots of Kiambu, on 31st of January 2020, I was sworn in as the third governor of this county. And therefore today, you can say we've been together for about 2 years and probably 4 months. And within that period, and when we were sworn in, we found a number of constraints that are important to consider, because what I'll go through is I'll tell you the kind of constraints that we found. I'll then tell you, when we looked at those constraints, what did we pledge to Kiambu people to do? And then what did we do? What have we done in order to address those pledges? And then say, even if we have addressed all those challenges and all, to meet the pledges, notwithstanding, there are still a number of challenges ahead of us. And my promise, my covenant, is how we tackle those challenges. So as it were, if I was a pastor, I would say those are the 3 things that are 4 things that I'm going to look at. We found a county, as I said, that was entirely corrupt, total lack of transparency. Systems were totally abused, because, if you want to steal a goat from your neighbor, what you do is that at night you cut the wire, the barbed wire, and then you can go in and steal the goat. So there were systems that were mismanaged and were manipulated so that could allow the kind of things that we found. We found an extremely huge debt. I don't know whether Kiambu people know, and I was laughing the other day when Laikipia floated our infrastructure board, and they went through credit rating. And I was saying, if we were to go through credit rating, we would probably not be rated properly. Besides the fact that the first governor accumulated a pending bill of 2.5 billion shillings, the second governor, within a span of 2 years, accumulated pending bills of 3 billion shillings. So as it were, our pending bills total is 5.2 billion. Within the last 24 months or so, we've been able to clear 1.4 billion. But that is with a lot of sweat. So, hugely indebted county. We found a payroll that is to a large extent over 42% of our budget. So if you get money and you have to spend 42%, and you know, the requirement is that you only spend 35, then how do you bring that down? That is the county we found. In 1 year, in the transition between 2015, around 2016 as we entered to 2017, over 2,000 people were employed, broadening the staff component from 5,000 employees to 7,000. So that's the kind of county that we found. We found a number of stalled projects. Indeed, most of the projects that were started, I would say this very clearly, were not started because there were good intentions of starting the projects. And we want to look at them. Look at the hospital projects. There were 4 hospital projects that have been started since 2015. We had Rari, which is still going on today. We had Tigoni, we had Wangige, and we had Vogoto. Those hospital projects were started in 2015. But after the initial payment for whatever purpose, nothing continued. We found those projects, most of those projects at about 20% completion, whereas some people had been paid over 25%. So you are paying 25% for a project that is up to 20%. Many stalled projects, road projects, we all know. People who from Dogoto know Dogoto Daire Road. From Githunguri, you know Githieko Road. From Juja, you know. So we found stalled projects, quite a number of them across the board. ECDs were started, and today, even up to today, the children have not occupied those ECDs. We also found some interesting things. Whereas we are interested in investing in water, and I'll come to water later on, we found a situation that was very interesting, where we had drilled over 130 boreholes without installing them. So the job here is to drill and maybe make money through drilling, but don't install a pump, don't install a pump. Now that's the kind of county that we found. And I can go on and on and on. Having looked at that, 1 month later, 13th of March, COVID came in. And the first commitment that we did was to make sure that we save our people. So I pledged to restore not only the glory of the county, but I made sure that I'm providing for health services to make sure that our people do not die. And I'll come to that later on. We also wanted to support our farmers. We came in and we found that there was no budget, zero budget to agriculture. That's probably because it is less attractive to invest in agriculture than to invest in Amulika Mwizi. From a distance, if you invest in Amulika Mwizi, and if you are running for governor, you can say, "Ire ni mimi niliweka." But you invest in agriculture and people are looking healthier and whatever, and their stomachs are full, you can't say those stomachs are full because of me. So traditionally, we found that it is difficult and almost impossible to invest in agriculture, and we had to do something, we had to pledge to do something in agriculture. Our water connectivity, as I said, God has blessed us. We are coming from top to the middle, down, which means our rivers are flowing from top. But our water connectivity was, even now still remains slow. So I pledged to make sure that we not only work on those boreholes, but we increase connectivity, water connectivity to our people. And that has a meaning, because women in areas where we have connected water were waking up at 3, only to come back at about 4 with 1 mutungi of water. Girls were not going to school. Our roads were totally dilapidated. And those that were constructed as if it was a joke. And we made a commitment that we are going to construct a minimum of 4 kilometers in every ward within 2 years. I will tell you what we have done. We have done more than that. We found those stalled projects, and immediately I took over. I started working on the stalled projects, all of them, both the hospitals and the roads and so on. And luckily enough, I had pumped in enough money in Tigoni. So by the time COVID broke, I had already completed the tower. And therefore, we had reasons to make Tigoni a COVID center, the only county that ever committed one hospital to become a COVID center. You know what it means if you talk to the medics? You know what it means is that when people are having an epidemic like COVID, you restrict them to one area so that even if there is cross infection, it is only in one area. But if you scatter them in all the hospitals, in the 3 level 4 hospitals, level 5 hospitals, then the incidence of infection would have been higher. So it cost us much to do that hospital, but it was a decision that we were to do. And therefore, we also made commitment to look at trade. Most of the markets were not done. Githurai had not been started. There was push and pull, and we committed to do a number of things. And that is the pledge. And many other issues to do with staff. The staff morale was bad. Instituting new financial systems, checks and balances, and so on and so forth. So what did we do? As I said, the first thing that we did was to make sure that we contain COVID. We did this by ensuring that we complete and start operating Tigoni and Wagi Hospital with a total bed capacity, the 2 hospitals, with a total bed capacity of 500. But we more particularly concentrated on Tigoni. From 54 beds, we installed 300 beds. We installed a 6-ton oxygen tank. We installed rotary equipment. And we installed 30 incubators. I know some may not know what incubators are, but for the children who are born prematurely, they spend their time in nursery, as it were, the incubators. We also started 4 other hospitals. We could not, unfortunately, start the construction of the water hospital, because by the time we got there, we realized that the contractor was asking us for more money than he had spent. And part of the money that he had spent without receipts, you know what that means? He wanted us to pay him. And we didn't, so he went to court, and we've been in court until now when the hospital has been released to us. And that happened across the road. There are quite a number of roads that had been given out, and I want to tell people at the day we're here, because I was there the other day, the road from Kiambu Road to Witsa was among those roads that were allocated to a contractor without a budget. And yet, they had given 10%, I don't know for what, without a down payment. So we continued to do the construction of the other 4 hospitals that are coming up in place, Githunguri, with a capacity of 300 beds. We know we have been issues with Githunguri, Bibirioni, Rally Level 4, which is now complete. They are painting the outside. Rusegate and Igegani Hospital. We increased our ICU bed capacity from 8 in Thika to 54. In Tigoni, there is ICU bed capacity of 14 because you know COVID required that you have ICU facilities. So our ICU capacity, including Kiambu here, is 54 beds and going up. We installed cleaning and rotary equipment. Prior to that, the linen was hard washed. And you can imagine, if you are the one washing the linen from the hospital, from patients whose disease you did not know whether they died or they didn't, then what happens is that the cleaner then got sick. So we have installed laundry and drying equipment in our level 3 hospitals and 2 level 4 hospitals. We upgraded Gatundu Hospital from level 5 to level 6 by entering an agreement with Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital. What that means is that you can see the infrastructural change that there is in that hospital. There was an old wing with a bed capacity of 200. We are now putting up a new wing with another bed capacity of 200. We have one of the biggest COVID-19 testing unit, and we have one of the biggest conclave, or whatever they call it, where you burn medical waste. I don't know whether you know, but medical waste is a source of many diseases. Now we can be able to ban all the medical waste for the whole county within 3 days for the whole county, provided we can be able to transport it there, and that is Gatundu. There was a bit of myth that Gatundu is going to be taken over and become a referral hospital, and I made it very clear that it is a level 6 and it is a hospital accessible to Gatundu and Kiambu people. We have increased health personnel by 500. These are mainly doctors, clinical officers, and nurses, all through the COVID center. What it means is that, of course, to make matters worse, we increased the wage rate, but we needed that. What is so important about health, and I want to finish on health about that, is that we did not have a central medical store. So when we buy drugs from Meds or from KEMSA, they were taken directly to the facilities. So you could get one facility with excess of drugs, whereas the neighboring facility did not have any. So we have now put up a central medical store in Ruiru. It's almost complete. It shall be installed with hospital information management system that will be connected with all the hospitals, and we shall be able to know which facility is running out of drugs, and you can cross-transfer from one facility to another because all of that can be managed through the hospital management system. On agriculture, I told you, we found that there was zero budget. We have now improved the budget for agriculture up to 1.2 billion shillings per year. We have supplied seed and fertilizer to 180,000 farmers over the last 2 years. We have also started a new extension method that we call village-based advisory method, where we teach farmers to become the trainers of their neighbors. Over that, and I know there may be VBAs here, we call them, part of that is that VBAs become entrepreneurs because they are the ones who are passing on the technology, including seed and fertilizer and chicken, to the farmers. And we have connected the VBAs to an organization that has given them interest-free credit so that they can become entrepreneurs. So you are not only an entrepreneur, but also you are extending the information to farmers on how to do agriculture. So far we have 1,000 VBAs reaching out to 300,000 farmers. Our intention is to do 3 times that. We have supported our dairy. We have 23 dairy cooperatives outside the key ones that we are proud of, Githunguri, Duberi, and now Mangu Progressive, together with Remuru. We want Remuru and Mangu Progressive to be the next Githunguri dairy. Those from Githunguri know very well that the turnover for Githunguri dairy is 8 billion, shared among 14,000 farmers. You can do your math. A farmer, an ordinary farmer in Githunguri is making between 400 and 600,000 shillings every year. If we can be able to do that for Mangu Progressive, do it for Remuru, do it for Duberi, and do it for a couple of others, 23, that we have supplied coolers and pasteurizers, then we can turn over the wealth of our county, because dairy, from dairy, you get dairy income. Now, Shira, you have to tell me which is dairy and which is dairy. You know, as a Kikuyu, I mean one with R and the other one with R. These are problems that you face. So we want, we are the biggest producer of milk in the country, producing about 354 million liters. We are now at the level of 370, and we want to reach 400. And the 23 small cooperatives, our purpose and objective is to make sure that we centrally process our milk, and we have a brand, a Kiambu brand, that we are selling. I have to move faster on water. As I said, we had all these problems, but I'm happy to say that we have so far connected 170,000 households with water. Areas that never saw a drop of water except when it was raining, today can access water. People in Goliva, they are getting water straight from the Wasco, the Kaliva next to Chania Falls. People in Deya, We have moved water 11 kilometers from Ondiri to Ndeya. We have moved water from Rari, Roromo, through Mutarakwa all the way. You can talk about Githurai. It's an area where there was no water at all. We have an 8-inch pipe that is transporting water from Jacaranda down through Kahawasukari, Kahawendani, Mwiki, and all the way to Mwihoko and Kyo. We have put in a reservoir of a capacity of 23 million liters at Jacaranda, awaiting the completion of Karimeno Dam. What does that mean? Ujipange au upangwe. Tumejipanga so that by the time Karimeno is full, the first place to be filled with water is Jacaranda, and we will have water coming to Roiro all the way to Kyo and Githurai. And that is what we have planned on water. There, we can continue to talk on about water. But one other thing we have done, and thank you, PS, for helping us to do this, is to do a water master plan. We have water master plan for every single sub-county. For instance, today we were in Kiambu. We know very well that Kiambu requires 600 million in order to move from 70. Can you imagine that water connectivity in Kiambu is 17%, 1-7. So 83% of the population can hardly access water on a daily basis. In Kiambu, we are not talking about Deya. But we have a master plan for it, and we've discussed. Together with that, and with the help again of the PS, we have done a hydrological survey that has shown us that God has blessed us with reservoirs full of water. We can continue to put in another 3 or 4 boreholes in Ondiri without drying the swamp and without affecting the other boreholes. We can put 10 more boreholes in Roromo, and yesterday I was discussing with people from Rari to make sure that they benefit from Roromo and from Fadi. We have a huge water catchment called Lionderi. We have many water projects. We want to capture, again, Karimeno water at Kalibaribi next to Merehill so that we can supply the whole of Thika. Today, Thika can only produce 29,000 cubic meters of water, or cubic liters of water. But we are working with Danida and the World Bank to double that to 54,000. So that the whole of Thika, including Kisii, including Kameno, all the way you can have adequate water. It requires a plan, it requires a covenant. I don't want to talk about trade because you all have known that we completed, with the help of the national government, His Excellency the President, we completed 5 markets. And you have seen those markets all the way from Kikuyu to, we are just about now to start Githurai market. And in addition to that, we have started other sheds. I'm happy to tell you that in another 3 or 4 weeks, we shall have completed Gitaro, we have Kegumo, we have quite a number of them. We have Kimende, a number of them that are coming up, so that our traders can work in a conducive environment, whether it is cold or rainy or shiny or whatever. Housing. There are various issues that we have done on housing. But the most important one is to create space so that we can do 2,000 affordable housing. Those people who know Roiro, between Roiro and the market, there is a place there. We have already compensated the people there to create space to do 500 high-rise affordable housing. The same with Thika, quite a number of them. So that is what we want to do. We entered an agreement with National Housing Corporation in order to start it. We haven't started it. That is in the plan. We also know that developers have been going through problems, and particularly because of approval and the corruption that goes with it. I want to report to you that we are moving out of the old traditional e-dams. That is a system that you upload your construction plan, and we found that it was violated, it was hacked. People were entering in, paying money, but the money was not coming to us. So now you are experiencing a bit of slowness because we are moving from that system, which has been manipulated to be misused, into another system, and it is going to be decentralized to wards. I may want to reduce this and talk about education and social services. I think the most important thing is our children. You all know that when the first place that our children encounters a school or a teacher is at ECD. We have found that most of our ECDs are dilapidated. They are afterthoughts. You have a very good primary school because the MP may have a CDF, but you have a very poor ECD. We have started a process of modern ECDs, and I am happy that we have 2 modern ECDs. One is in Murera. That one in Murera has not only the classroom, it has a resting room where kids will probably take a nap. We have toilet facilities, modern toilet facilities, differentiated, including for people living with disabilities. We have 5 standard ECDs. We have a whole program on working on ECDs. And together with that, we have a whole program on working to improve the welfare of the teachers. We have converted all our teachers who are paid a stipend of 8,000 shillings to permanent and pensionable staff, and I hope some of them are here, who now can access medical, and they can access, because that is the point. Mtoto kama atakutana na mwalimu at that point, anaasikie shule ni mbaya, that child will never get to standard 1. They will never get to the university. So that is the starting point. We need to work on it. I think I have talked about all of that, and I will say as an economist that the things that we have done and the things that I have told you are what we can call necessary but not sufficient. You can have a good road. You can have health facilities. You probably did not die of COVID, but you don't have money in your pocket. And the most important thing for us Kiambu people is to enter into an agreement that we are going to have money in people's pocket. As you probably see, we started off with agriculture, the food security that I talked about, providing seeds to our farmers. We have worked with coffee farmers. They have formed an association, and we have bought fertilizer for them. Our agreement is that we should establish our counter meal, and then we should be selling our coffee as a Kiambu County brand. I know, for instance, that there are buyers currently in the country from Korea, but they could not come to Kiambu because we are not meeting our coffee centrally, and we have not created a Kiambu brand. On dairy, I have told you the plan. So essentially, the 40% living in rural areas must make sure that we improve on our agriculture. Those who are living in peri-urban, we have peri-urban agriculture, and I'm talking about areas such as Roiro, in Githurai, areas such as Odero, Kino, and those surrounding areas where land is limited, but you can be able to do chicken, you can be able to do pork or pigs, and you can be able to do some of those fast-moving, including greenhouses. That is where we start. That is the starting point. But then you come to the most important. This is doing business, because we are known for being entrepreneurs. And through that, we've realized the disadvantage that we have as a county is that people start business without knowing the kind of business you want to enter into. And I've always given this example, that a lady is working in a salon, but because 3, 5, 10, out of 10 customers who come to that salon, 5 always say, Nataka Rebecca. After Rebecca sees that she's in high demand, the next thing is to jump 3 shops and establish another salon there, without knowing what the technicalities of doing a salon is, without even knowing the basic equipment. So what we've done is to get you into a 3 or 4 day training, which we call business development service, so that we can teach you the business you want to enter into. We have people who have specialized on salons. We have people who have specialized on hardware, people who have specialized on all kinds of business. So they will show you, then they will show you how to keep your accounts. And they will show you how to obey and follow all the rules and regulations, because you are supposed to register NHIF and so on. And then after that, we have introduced a fund that we are calling Jinue. Jinue means simply lift yourself up. What does it mean? You know, traditionally, and I want us to get this very clearly, traditionally, you have all these funds called Biashara Fund or whatever it is called, where you are dedicating 100 million, and then you choose who to give, and then you run down the fund, and you have to pump in another 100, and the criteria of the people you have given is not known, and even the repayment is zero. Kwa sababu ni pesa ya umma. Now, we innovatively thought that if you get that 100 million, and we have gotten initially 138 million, put it in a bank and tell the bank, keep this money in a deposit. What you do is assess the people I'm sending to you, give them a facility, a working capital facility, ranging from 20,000 to 5 million. We will teach them to do the business that they are doing. We as Kiambu County will pay 50% of the interest, so you only pay 50%. We are your security. You should not be asked to bring a logbook or be asked to bring a title or anything. We are your security. And that is why we need this team to come and visit you so that they can look at your targets and say, if you go this way, you probably will not make it. Because if you don't make it, then we lose. Because the bank will fall back on the money that you have given. Now, the arrangement today with the banks and with a number of development partners is that we should be able to leverage. Now we are leveraging 1.3 billion shillings. The arrangement is that we should be able to leverage 5 billion shillings, and a number of development partners and philanthropic organizations, some of whom we have worked with, are telling us, if it is going to be successful at 1.3, we will help you to bring the interest rate from 7 to 3. So we are getting to a point, my fellow residents, we are getting to a point where you may be able to get, you'll be able to get this facility at almost zero interest rate, and your work is just to pay the principal. Now, that is what we call economic empowerment. Now, if you look at the category of people, I've been telling our young people that they are called Jeshi, but whoever calls you Jeshi, you are Jeshi without a gun. The gun I'm giving you is the access to that finance, and then we organize groups so that we can start trading. And I keep on giving an example. If we have organized groups, and a group, particularly I'm very passionate about the young mothers, you know, and I know if I ask Masingos muko wapi, Masingos, yeah. You know, these are very important people, and when I come to the promise, I'll talk about them. Now, these are people we can organize. It's not that we are encouraging others to become singles, but these are people we can organize so that they can become traders. What is wrong with them getting a canton, going all the way to Mwea, buying the rice, and they come selling Thika, Ruiru, Kiambu, wherever, them together. Others go to Rari and buy some cabbages and onions and whatever and take it to Mombasa, sell in Mombasa and come up with mangoes. Now, these are the kind of groups and arrangements that we need to do so that we can create jobs for our people. I want to add this by saying, despite that, despite the things that we've done, we continue to face a number of challenges. And very quickly, I'll just mention them because those are the challenges on which my promise is going to be based. On health, we are still congested. We still get about 30% of our patients coming from Nairobi. If you go to Kiambu Hospital here, the maternity ward is full. Probably 40 or 45% of those patients are from Nairobi. We will not ask them. We will not refuse to admit them. We continue to face lack of modern equipment. If you go to our hospital, the doctor is there, but unfortunately, the doctor may send you out for a CT scan or for an X-ray or MRI or dialysis. That's a challenge, and in my promise, I'll show you how we are going to tackle that. I don't know whether you know that one of the biggest problems that we are grappling with is Central Kenya, and us here in Kiambu, because I can only talk about Kiambu, is the high incidence of what is referred to as non-communicable diseases. These are lifestyle diseases, they call them, but they are not lifestyle because people who are suffering have no life at all and they have no style. These are diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and to some extent cancer. Now, what is happening is that if you go to any hospital and you count the number of patients who have come to the hospital with NCDs, you realize that they are probably 40 or 50 or 60%. So what do we do to decongest our hospitals from NCD patients. That's a challenge. We have a challenge in water. I talked about it. We still have challenge in agriculture. We've challenge in trade. We have a challenge in urbanization and housing. That's a major one. 60% of our population living in rural areas, in urban centers. We have 5 municipalities, but that was based on 2009 population census. We have now requested under the Urbans and Cities Act that we add another 6 municipalities. If you look at Ruiru alone with a population of 800,000, we have proposed that we have Ruiru and Githurai as 2 municipalities. We have suggested that we separate Kiambu, we separate Kabete and Kikuyu so that each one of them can be a municipality on its own. We have suggested that Githunguri becomes a municipality. In fact, people from Githunguri, when they see Kiambu town and see how Kiambu has developed, they say, why are we not like Kiambu? It is because you are not a municipality, you are not benefiting from resources that come to municipality, but now you have suggested that you become a municipality. We are also looking at a new way of investing in our urban centers, and we'll talk about that when I look at the promise. We need to become the next destination for investment. You knew very well that there was a time that Thika was referred as the Birmingham of Kenya. We had all kinds of textile, hides and skin, Del Monte, and all kinds of factories. But because of some reasons, and including mismanagement and corruption, we started getting factories going to Kitengela and Athi River. What is this that we are going to do to make sure that we create a conducive environment and industry start coming back to Thika? You can say we have no space. We have space. We have close to 700 acres that we have secured from Del Monte. And a lot of people have different plans. Our plan is that we make that the next extension of Thika town as we make Thika a city and make it the destination for investment so that people stop going to the crowded Kitengela and all the way to the river and they can come to Kiambu. We'll talk about education. We have a major issue in education, particularly in terms of, as I said, the infrastructure, but also the transition rate. We may be good people. We may have all the things I talked about, but our children are not going to the best schools, although we also host some of the best schools. And we need to lobby and advocate, because when you have your child who is admitted in a school somewhere, or not mentioned because we are on air, and you know very well that that child will not go there for several reasons. First of all, the fare is as much as you pay the fees. So what you do is you lose that national position, it's taken up by somebody else, and your child will go to a lower school. And we keep quiet. We have to be able to lobby and advocate for education. We'll look at roads and talk about the things that we have to do on roads. We have some very innovative ways of doing roads. That is the county that you have. That is the county that I found. That is the county that I pledged to do certain things. And that is the county that I have done some of those things that you see across the board within 2 years, with all the constraints. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you that the future belongs to the organized. The covenant that I'm going to discuss with you is what is going to take us to the next level. Is what is going to move us from being referred to as county number 1, as it is in Kut and North Mombasa, but we are probably county number 47. I want you to remember, before I come to my promise, that Moi told us, Siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya. Thank you, and God bless you. I was told I pause so that I can come back and tell you what my promise to you people of Kiambu is. Thank you, and God bless.